So title is not very important. So first of all, we are speaking about video tracking, but what is video? What is a video? And more precisely, what is digital video? You probably all know this little flip book that allows to create a small video based on a succession of small image. Well, this basically is what a video is. Even on your computer, a video is just a combination of a lot of small images, which bring the question, what is an image? So it's maybe a basic question, but in a computer, an image is a combination of, let's say, three kinds of tables. The first one is the red values, then we have the green values, and we finally have the blue values. So each of these table will give us, as you can see, one color. And in each of these table, we will have one cell represents what we call a pixel. So I guess everyone knows what a pixel is. But a pixel so is this little dot on your computer that creates the whole image. And the final color is a combination of these three colors. For instance, if this was a very, very small image of 4 pixel by 4 pixel, this would be how it would look like. So we can see that if we have no color, no red, no green, no blue, we get completely no black image. If we have all the three colors, so the maximum is 255. So if we have all the three colors in our pixel, we will get white. And if the three colors have the same value, we will get a gray. Then the combination of all those colors and all those values will allow you to make all the possible color that your computer, I mean, if you have classical computer, will be able to display, which makes it about, oh, there is a 16 million possible colors. So we have quite a nice range. So it's maybe a bit basic, but showing this will maybe help you later to understand how the program is working and programs in general are. So now there are two main kinds of video tracking programs. The first kind that is growing up, let's say it's still developing a lot, is the AI-based video tracking programs. And the other one is what we will call more traditional, without artificial intelligence, video tracking programs. So I make comparison because right now there is a big fashion of the artificial intelligence-based model. And well, it's completely normal because artificial intelligence-based tracking programs are much better. Let's be honest, they are much more flexible in the sense that they will be able to track animals even if there is strong changes in luminosity, even if there is changes in the shape. They are able to manage occlusion, so they are very good. They are also very, let's say, general in the sense that you won't need to spend time during fine-tuning, looking for the best parameters. So for this, they are also much better. But still, there is, let's say, some inconvenience of AI, which are mainly due to us, in fact. First of all, is the resources. So to have AI-powered programs, usually they are much more resources consuming. So you will need better computer. Another main limitation of the AI-based model is the fact that you need some training of your data. So this can be a lot of time. And sometimes if you just have a few videos in easy condition, let's say I have a black mouse tracked on a white background, do I really need to spend hours training an artificial intelligence to find where the mouse is when there are much easier and simpler solutions? And so finally, the last one is that most of the artificial intelligence-based model, for the moment at least, are quite complex to use in the sense that, for instance, the installation itself is often tricky, so they have also their limitation. And that's why, I mean, today I will be presenting AnimalTA, which is not AI-based. So we are in this right part. So it's traditional video tracking. So of course, it has the limitation of the traditional ones. You won't find here something extremely powerful, but that's completely sufficient to track what I will call the easy videos, the ones that are not in so complex environment. For instance, all classical, let's say, laboratory videos, you don't need AI in most of the cases. Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me. Then, so why did we develop AnimalTA? So that's a question I often have, because there are plenty of animal tracking programs, and so personally, as I explained you before, sorry, I'm a researcher. So I saw the tracking programs for me as a tool that I needed to use. And my main problem is that, well, I never really found something that I liked. And in the end, I end up trying to fix the problems I found in the other program with my own. And so these are the main problem I find in the other program, at least. In not all of them, of course, but majority. First, that a lot of programs are expensive. So that's, of course, a very big limitation. We cannot all afford a 5,000 euro program for our experiments, mainly because also another limitation is that it's expensive and you don't know if it will work. So sometimes you buy very expensive programs, and in the end, for some reason, you cannot track your videos. So that's a big investment and often very scary for a lot of people. Another limitation is that for free programs, obviously the one you have to pay for, I hope, are updated frequently, but the free programs, there is a tendency for the people to abandon them. And so programs that are not updated will rapidly reach their end, being full of bugs and not being able to cope with the updates of the operating systems, for instance. Another limitation that I found in a lot of the programs I used is their complexity. So we don't know, all of us, how to code. It's not always easy to understand Python, to know how to write a whole script when we are not trained for that. And so a lot of programs ask you basically to do that. So they are, of course, tracking programs, but all the coded parts is, well, I mean, you often need to do coding yourself, which is not easy for all of us, because even if we have the competencies, even if we could learn how to code and how to manage those programs, well, one main limitation for us as researchers is the time. We don't all have the time to invest to learn how to use those programs. The complex installation, it's kind of similar problem, that you don't want to spend 1 month just to install your program. So it's also a limitation that I found in another program. And finally, something that's for me quite recurrent in the existing programs is that most of them, of course not all, but fail to consider our daily hurdles. Meaning that, for instance, I'm working with invertebrates, and what we often do to win time, because we need lots of replicates, is to record several individuals at the same time, like in this video in the right. Well, not most, but good proportion of the program do not allow to do multi-arena tracking. But that's a first idea, for instance. Another is that very often the programs ask you to have perfect videos that are recorded in perfect condition with very good camera, very good luminosity. But our real life is not that. Our real life is someone turned on the light in the room when it was not expected. It's how the camera moved a bit because it was not well fixed. How there is some shades because of the size of the box. So there is always some problems, and videos are not perfect. Another thing that's quite annoying for me is that it's often very difficult to correct the trackings. But when you have this kind of problem, some programs allow you to correct them in a difficult way, and some others just doesn't. And so the only solution will be to redo the tracking, hoping that it won't happen again. But sometimes modifying one parameter improves one problem, but creates more. So the correction of the tracking is often also quite annoying. And so for this reason, I wanted AnimalTA to implement an easy and complete way of correcting the tracking results. And finally, what we often need, and that's not always easy to get, is to have the possibility to do a personalized analysis. So for instance, in that case, if you have just the trajectories of your data, this won't help us to know, for instance, in this case, where my ant is in the maze or how many area it explored. Well, just having the trajectories themselves, if you want to analyze them without a lot of coding, it's quite difficult often. So now I propose to begin with AnimalTA itself. So I will work, I guess, this way. Maybe I can do one thing. It's a bit perturbating to be speaking without seeing anyone, to be honest. So I will try to have you somewhere, if I can. You are here. Is it okay for you if I do like this? Or is it a problem maybe for the recording? No, it's fine? Yeah, okay. So thanks. So much easier for me. So what I propose now is, so I will show my presentation in the left, but I will also show you what it means directly inside the program in the right. First of all, I have a small question, just to know to whom I'm speaking. The people who are here listening to me, did you already use the program? Did you install it? Can I have a bit of feedback about that? Yeah. So maybe you can just turn on the mic and speak. And
Hi. Sorry, hi. Yes, I recently started using AnimalTA, and I'm super happy with the interface. Like the YouTube videos were also super helpful. So yeah, I'm using them for my own videos at the moment.
Okay. So and the other,
I've installed and I've tried a few things, but I haven't like fully used the program yet.
Okay.
I don't think I was able to install it, maybe because of my Mac computer. I think maybe it's only a Windows program, so I haven't been able to install it, unfortunately.
So indeed, it's only for Windows, but so I have several users who use a virtualization program. It's a way of creating a fake Windows on your Mac, and from what I heard about this, is that it's working quite well. So I'm sorry, it's a big objective I have to make it Mac compatible, but each time I begin, I give up. It's taking so many time that I'm, and the problem that each time I make an update would mean that I have to do the update in also Mac and then Linux, and so in the end, I just advise people to try virtualization program. I'm sorry about that, but okay.
That's okay. I think it's time that I need to get some sort of desktop. I feel like a lot of programs only use desktop instead of Mac.
Okay, so let's hope this will work for you. So I will consider that not everyone knows about the program. So maybe I'm sorry about for you, Annabelle and Julian, maybe it will be a bit basic, but I will go basic.
I haven't played with the program at all, so I will be happy with basic.
Great. Okay. If you see it's boring, it's too slow, or in the opposite, it's too fast, please do not hesitate to interrupt me. Know that I can see you. It's easier for me. So this, when you open the program, this is what you will get from the very beginning. So it's completely empty. And the way AnimalTA is working is that it's working by what we call a project. So a project is a group of videos. Inside a project, there is no limit. You can put as much videos as you want. Well, there is no limit. There is one limit, but it depends on your computer power. But it's usually quite high. It will depend on how many videos you are working with, their characteristics. So if you are working with 4K videos, you won't be able to store thousands. But to give you an example, I've been working with 300 videos. My student is working with 500 without problems. And these are like 10, 20 minutes videos. So yeah, there is a limit, but not so high. And you can also, some people used to create several projects for the same experiment. Either if you have a small number of video, you do one project for all, but you can also just do several projects and do your analysis little by little. Oh, by the way, sorry, that's also an advantage of non-AI. The AI-based program have one inconvenience, is that they are not repeatable, in the sense that if I use the same program in my computer and use the same program on your computer, the AI won't be exactly the same in both computer because it won't be trained the same way. So we might not get the same results. While if you use this classical kind of tracking program, if we all put the same parameters, we will get the exactly same data. So for repeatability, you have a small advantage. That's it. So a project. So to create a project, we will just simply create a new project. So we have a new project button. So I will create here my project in a folder that I call demonstration. And let's call it ASSAB live project. So when I validate, so now I see my project name here, and I have some new options. Before that, I just want you to see that in my folder, sorry, here, no, it's not here, it's on the desktop. Here. So when I created my project, so two things were created instantly. So first, I have my project file, which is the file you will use if you want to run AnimalTA. So for instance, I save here, so I saved my project, I will close it. If I turn this one, my project will be open. So it's really, this is the AnimalTA file. Basically, it's, you have the file extension .ata, and it will save all the parameters, all the information regarding the videos, everything you are doing is saved here. And it will also create a project folder. So this project folder is where will be stored all the converted videos, all the tracking data. So the tracks will be saved here and all the results data. But for now, because my project is my project is empty, my project folder is also empty. So first thing that I will need to do is to add some videos. So let's add some videos. Click my add video button, and I prepared a few videos. So you can select as much as video as you want. One small detail to not lose time during the presentation, I converted all my videos first. But it might not be the case for you if you are using other kind of video, which is 99% of the video we are usually using are coming as MP4 or AVCHD or whatever. So in that case, the program will convert them for you. You don't need to download a converter first. You don't need to spend time. I don't know if you are all used to tracking programs, but for me, it was quite often that I need to find a converter first to convert the video. Then I had the big watermark in the middle because I am cheap and I didn't want to pay for the converter. So, well, okay, all these problems, you don't have them. AnimalTA is doing the conversion itself. So you just put the video and it will convert it for you. So as you saw, I placed here several videos. And in my project, I now have a kind of table. So I have a table with several rows. Each row is a video, and each column is a treatment I can apply to my video. So first, I have here 3 little buttons that allow the management of the video. So the red cross is to suppress a video. So if I don't want the ends anymore, I will press my red button. He asks me Are you sure you want to suppress it? Yes, no, basic. This one will allow to copy videos. For now, it's not very useful, but later we will see that it can be quite useful. So if I press my copy button, it will just add a new row with the same video inside. All the modification you do inside the program, deleting a video, copying it, will not impact your videos for real. This is how you will see. This is what the program knows about. But when you do that, he's not creating another video. He's just creating a copy of the video for himself. So he just knows he will use the same video in both rows. Okay, so it's not impacting your own file. You can be safe with that. Your original files won't be impacted by what you are doing inside AnimalTA. And so I will just delete my copy. And the last one is also something quite useful, I guess, if you are used to working with these long-term videos. Sometimes your camera cut it in small pieces. I don't know if this happened to you, but it's quite frequent for me. So if this happens, you have this little symbol here is the symbol for fusion. So you add all your pieces of video, and then you can just click one, and then you click the one you want to be pasted after the first one. So here it won't work because my two videos don't have the same characteristics. But okay, let's give you an example. My fish videos, for instance, they are all recorded the same way and with the same camera. So if I say I want to fusion my first video with my second one, now you see the second one disappeared, and my first video is now twice the size. Okay, it's written here, the duration is twice the size as before. Well, for this demonstration, I would like to keep my two videos. So I will just put them back. And as you see, my two videos, I deleted them in the project, but they still exist. They are still here, so there is no problem. I can also manage my videos, moving them. So I will now put my fish 3 after my fish 1 and 2. So you have small little row. Okay, that's very basic. Now, the way the program is working, 1 row per video, as I explained. And then we have 1 column per treatment. So the very first treatment, in fact, is these 2 little arrows, which indicates rotation. If I put my mouse over this eye here, I see the first image of my video. So for instance, this one is here. But let's imagine you want to rotate your videos. I will just press my arrow, and you see my video has been rotated. So it can be useful, for instance, if you are working with something where up and down is important, or right and left is important, then you can use this to orientate your video rapidly. And once again, it won't change your video for real. It's only inside the program. You can also rename your videos. So for instance, I can give it a name and cancel the name that you gave. So this also, giving name to videos is quite practical, because it allows to work faster later. Because if you give your videos a real name that's easy to follow with, then when you will run the analysis, the program will tell you, in this video, you have this data. So if your video is already your treatment or the name of the individual or whatever you are working with, it will make the analysis much faster. Then let's go into a bit more deeper. So this we discussed already. The frame rate. So what is the frame rate? Frame rate, as I explained you before, a video is a combination of a lot of images. Well, the frame rate is at which pace will we read this image? Do we have 1 image every second? Do we have 1 image or 2 images per second? And so on. So the very most common for most of the camera, the Handycam classical camera, are between 25 and 30. There are some cameras that goes much higher. You can see here, for instance, I had different cameras I used for these various videos. So I have some that are recording at 30 FPS. So that's a lot. The higher the number, the more image you will get. And the lower the number, the lower you will get. So the advantage and inconvenience of having a lot of image, because there is both, The more numerous your images are, the smoother will be your trajectories. For instance, you have here this illustration. So if I have a lot of image, if this fish is doing this blue movement here, I will add a lot of data point, and I will be precisely following the movement of my fish. In the last case, I have very low frame rate, so I don't have a lot of frame per second, and I will miss a lot of precision because I will have much less points. But there is also some inconvenience in having too much frame. Well, the first one, which is quite obvious, is the processing time. The more frame you have, the heavier is your video and the more time it will take to track. But the other one is that it will also, if you have too much precision, let's say, well, you will have points so often that the real movement will be hidden by the noise of the program. So this can be later smoothed, but it means that you are investing resources for nothing. So it's always interesting to think what is my frame rate? What frame rate do I need? I cannot answer it for you because it depends on your animal. If you're working with snails, well, you can have 2 images per second is completely enough. If you're working with super fast fish, you cannot go below 30 frames per second. So it depends a lot on you and what you need. But anyway, AnimalTA will allow you to decrease the frame rate. Why only decrease? Well, obviously, because when you give, obviously or not, when you give him the videos, if you give him 10 images per second, well, the program cannot create images to fill in. If you ask him to do 20 images per second when he only has 10, he cannot create that for you. So he's not creating stuff. He can only remove some images. So the basic way is to just decrease the number of images by a given ratio. So you divide by 2, you divide by 4, and so on. But you can also go personalized and you say, okay, I know exactly what I want, and I know that I want 1 frame per second. So let's imagine for my end video that, sorry, I'm not able to click correctly, that I want 1 frame per second. So I tell him I want this. So it means that now when I play my video, and I will show you that immediately, my video will like jump every second. So let's have a look at it. So here, this is now my video. You see that it's moving and I have 1 image every second. Here you see that it's very low, and it's too low because even for us, it's not easy to see which end is which one. You know what I mean? That they are like teleporting. So following the end movement is very difficult. So I cannot work for this video with such a low FPS. Oh, here is the real video. You see, it's much easier to follow what's happening on the video. So it depends on you. It's a question you may wonder. My advice is generally, if you have something around 25 or 30, and if you are not in the hurry, you don't have so many videos, you don't mind spending time doing the tracking, you can just leave it high. Now, if you want your tracking to be very fast and you are working with snail, just decrease it. So that was the first step, which is FPS. So once again, sorry, it's a very, I'm telling this a lot, but it's very important precision. I promise after I stop to repeat that. When you do that, you don't change your video for real. Meaning that if you change it here, when you will play your video on Windows Media Player from your video file, you will have the original FPS. You are not changing that. So because after I have strange question like I changed the FPS and my video is still not changed. Yeah, it's not changing the video for real. It's just the program will not read every image. It will calculate, I read this one, I skip 2, I read that one, I skip 2, I read that one. So it doesn't change the video, just facilitate the job. The next step is the cropping. So cropping video is something quite important. I will show you with my fish example. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I guess I'm not. Before we begin the experiment, we turn on the camera a bit before, because we don't want to miss the first frames. We don't want to miss the first seconds. By the way, while I'm speaking about video, these images are called frame. When we are speaking about videos, we call them frame, and that's why FPS is frame per second. sorry, let's just type. So in my case, for instance, my fish were here inside a cylinder because I didn't want them to be free to move before kiss time, before they get acclimated to the new water. And so I have all this part of the video I don't want to be tracked. I want the tracking to begin here. So I will play my video, move through it. So you can move using the timeline here. I just click and move. Or you can also do frame by frame using the keyboard. Or you can just play and stop. You have play, pause button, and spacebar is doing the same. So it's little tips that can be very useful. Using the spacebar, for instance, makes you win so many times than clicking on the button. Once you choose, so this is when I want my video to begin, you have a button select start. And you see here, the value will be changed and it will tell you, okay, from your video, you will begin at, so in my case, 68 seconds. At 68 seconds, everything before I won't look at it. And then you can either do the same for the end. For instance, I know when my video ends, when, I don't know, the light turned black or whatever, there is a sign on my video. So I just look for this precise moment and click the select video end. So for instance, if I know it's here, but another thing that, again, it's something that I'm doing a lot in my experiment, but I guess I'm not the only one. Often you need control time, like you want 10 minutes. And the same, we record always a few seconds more after seconds minute because we want to be sure we have the 10 minutes. So in that case, you can just write directly here how much time you want the video to be. So I want 10 minutes, I will just write 10 minutes here. So like this, it's much faster because I don't need to look exactly where it is. I don't need to calculate that it's 668, trying to look for the moment, you just write it here. Okay, and that's done for one video. Now, let's imagine you have 200 of videos and all of them, you want them to begin at the same moment and end at the same moment because they are all recorded the exact same way. Then you can just use the apply it to other video button. So I was working in this video of the fish. You see that my button color changed, meaning that I did something. So my button is purple, meaning that it's partly done. Oh, one little detail here on the top right of the program, you always have an information panel. If you are lost, if you don't know what to do, what is the next step, you just read it and it's usually helping you. And it's also giving you information. For instance, if I don't know what cropping is, I just put my mouse over the button and it will explain me what cropping is. So apply to other videos. And let's imagine my fish tube video is recorded the exact same way as the first one. So I will just apply it. And now you see that my second video changed. And it will now begin at the exact same moment as my first one and finish at the exact same moment as my first one. But it's not the case for real. Like, because of the way I'm recording, a bit before is not always the same time, a bit after is not always the same time. I cannot just do that. So another option, but still to process fast, is to click validate and go to next. So if I click my validate and go to next, it will automatically open me the video next in the line. So I can do the same process. So let's look for the moment. Here it is, select video start, duration 600, done. And I can continue and so on. I won't do all of them, but you get the idea. So the way you will work, and what I advise to do, of course, you do whatever you want, but is to work from the left column to the right. So the program is organized in a way that when you change something on the left, it won't impact something on the right. But sometimes changing something on the right will be impacted or will impact something on the left. For instance, if I change my cropping, well, it will, according to the frame rate, my cropping won't concern the same frames. So it's quite important to first set the frame rate and later the cropping. So now why do I have a partly done cropping only? Well, this is because there is, in fact, in AnimalTA, two kinds of croppings. I mean, I call them croppings. I don't know what the official name for it. There is this temporal crop, which is from when to when, and there is the where. For instance, this part of the video, I'm not interested in. This part of the video, I'm not interested in. And this one and this one. So this is what I will call spatial cropping. And it allows you to make your video smaller. Why do we want that? Well, it means that it will be much faster for the program to track, because he knows he doesn't need to analyze anything that's outside. He doesn't even need to import this part of the video. So if you have video with a big part of it who is not useful, you just can crop it like this, make it smaller. But you have to note one thing, that the process of cutting the video takes a bit of time. So you have to manage, for instance, in that case, I think it's not useful to remove this part. But if I'm interested really in that part, then it is interesting. That way I'm winning time. If I do just this, for instance, and I only remove a very small part, I'm just losing time, because I add the time of cutting and I don't win so many time because the size of the video is still big. Okay, so just to show you that if I do crop it, this is that now my button is yellow, meaning that I finished, I did everything I could do. Doesn't mean that I cannot change it. I can always come back and make any modification. And so let's go to the next step, which is stabilization. I will go back to my PowerPoint a second to explain you the concept of the stabilization. So stabilization is something that can be useful if you have tremors. So if your camera is moving a bit, if someone hit the table where the camera was, for instance, you might need to stabilize your video. So the way stabilization is working is that if you have your first frame of the video here and some random frame, that let's say frame number n, the program will look for point of interest that are here my little green points. It will look for points of interest in your first frame, and then look again for this point in your frame number n. And it will calculate the distance between the two. So it will just see where on my video, where my green points, where are they now in my frame later in the video, and what is the translation I have to do to correct this. And then it will move your video accordingly. And I have one video, I think, yes, this one, to illustrate that. So when you add the stabilization, by default, it will just immediately go yellow and tell you it's done. So it will apply default settings, but you can go a bit deeper and check exactly the settings and confirm that it worked. So for instance, I have this video in which, so this is my first image. It's exactly like what we had on the PowerPoint. My first image, the image I'm on the video, and the image after stabilization. And you can see that my video, which is so this part here, you can see that it's moving a lot. There is a lot of tremors because my camera was not very well fixed, but that my stabilized video is not moving at all. You will see that there is a black bar on the top and on the corner, I mean, on the border in general, that's sometimes appear. Well, this is to compensate, because as you can see here on my PowerPoint, well, when you move the video to adjust, there are some moments that just we don't have what's supposed to be here. It's not been recorded. So in that case, there is this black bar that's appearing. So don't worry if you have black bar moving around, it's normal. And now, so you see the reference point that are, I'm sorry, made a mistake here. So they are green in my PowerPoint and red in my AnimalTA, and then red and here green. So just swap the colors. And this is telling you which point the program think these are good points I can use to know where my video is. But if we take a better look, you will see that they are not all of them are good points. For instance, he's using my animals as reference point. Well, obviously these ones are moving and I want them to move. So I don't want them to be used as reference points. So I will just click on them and it will just remove them from the list of the reference point. So usually if you have a lot of reference points, you can just leave it. But if you see that your tracking is not correct, you can also do that to improve it. So remove all the points. For instance, sometimes it also uses reflection. Like there is something in the light that's making a reference point. You don't want it, you just can remove it. And you can also play a bit with, for instance, the quality of the reference point. So if I decrease it, it will add more point. You can play with the minimum distance between them, the number of them, and so on. So you have quite a lot of possibilities, and it doesn't really matter what you are doing. I guess the most important is that you understand how it's working. So, but you see that here I have a very stable image after my stabilization. Okay. Is it clear what I'm telling, or yeah? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not used to speak online, and it's a bit strange. Okay. So let's go. Let's go full AnimalTA. After doing this, you have the next step, which is the background creation. So background creation, I will explain it later, why we do that. But basically, the program is creating an image of your video without your animals. So for instance, if I go back to my fish here, so I have this video of my fish, I will ask him to create the background. I don't put the stabilization because I know this video, there is no tremors. Stabilization takes time to perform, and if it's not needed, just don't put it. You have less risk of mistakes, and it will be faster to process, so I won't use it. But you see that now it's my video, and there is not the fish. So it's not the first frame, it's just combining all the images I got to create this. So now from a technical point of view, how is it working? You remember before that we said that a video is a lot of image, and that each image is a kind of grid with values, with red, green, blue values. Well, what the program is doing here is just doing the median value for all the colors. And for, I think we take 10 frames through the video in random, equally spaced through the video. And in this 10 frame, we will calculate the median value for each pixel of the video. Meaning that if my animal is here 10% of the time, well, its values will not be considered because we do the median. So we will only take the values during which the animal is not present. But there is also a negative point of this system, is that because of this, if your animal is not moving, then it won't be removed, because if I do the average, the median of my image at this point, well, I will always find the black pixel of my animal. So in that case, I don't know if I have this case right now, if this happened. It do not have, yes, I have one case, I think, here. Yes, so you see here, for instance, one of my damsel fly, 3 of them did not move, because I have quite short videos and these animals are not moving too much. So what can I do in that case? I click the modify background button, and it will now open me the video, and I will move you here, and I can now draw. So this is a kind of very, very basic paint. So if I left click, I'm painting. If I right click, I'm selecting a color. So the color selected is here. So I click here, I'm painting whitish. If I click here, I'm painting green. I don't know what color this is, brown. Control Z to cancel. Like always, if you have doubt about the shortcuts, you have here an explanation and everything you can do inside this panel. And so in my case, I will just draw above my animals. So like this, my background will be almost perfect. So I right click close to my target, and then left click and paint over it. Right click, left click. And that's it. So okay, there is maybe one here. And now my background is perfect. Here, we are not trying to do art. So it's not a problem if you can see where I made the modification. The idea that just globally it's correct. So do not spend hours doing that. Anything will work. You can also, once you are here, you can redo the automatic one. Let's say you made a mistake when you were drawing, you can just cancel it by redoing. Or in some cases can be useful to just use the first image of the video. So if I do that, all my animal, okay. If I do that, I will just take the first image of the video. But we don't want that right now. So you see here, for instance, it's obvious I made a change, but it's absolutely not important. Okay. So to make it faster, you can do the background automatic for multiple videos. So once again, you can just click this. It was, or I didn't say it, but the same for stabilization. You always have a button, apply it to everyone. So the idea is more or less you do the first video, you check everything is working, and then you'd say, apply this for everyone, and it's done. So all the process I'm showing, you don't need to do it for every single video. Well, if the videos are recording the same way. Of course, in my project here is not the kind of project you will have. You will have, I mean, my advice is do not put several experiments in the same project. You just put the 3 fish video, yes, but you don't put these with spiders and damselflies in the middle. Okay. So next step is to define the arena. So an arena is where my target is. And the idea of the arena is that you can have several. So as I explained in the beginning of my presentation, with invertebrates, but also some people with vertebrates do that, we can have several arenas in which we have a fixed number of individuals, or not, but okay, in which, let's say, we will find our individuals. So for instance, here, this is one arena, and this is another one. So to create my arena, I just click where I want it to be, press enter, return K on the keyboard to validate. Once again, you have here all the list of shortcuts. So there is a lot of funny stuff, like you can just duplicate an arena, you can have fun with it. I don't have time to explain everything, but you can play. And you can combine arena, for instance. So here in that case, I don't need that because I just have 8 ellipses. I will just do it very rapidly. Once again, once this is done, you can also apply to other videos. So if all your videos are recording the same way, like the arenas are placed in the same position for each video, you can apply this to everyone, so you do it only once. If your arenas are not always in the same place, you will have to do this for each video. But you have this button, validate and go to next, so it's done for this one. I click here and I'm going to the next. So just what this means, if I click my view button here, this is what we call the mask. And this indicates where the program will look for the animals, meaning that the program will just ignore everything that's in black and it will focus on everything that's white. Another thing that's very important, it means that the program knows that one animal which is in one arena cannot be in another. Meaning that if my animal is here, it cannot be here, and the program knows it. So if you have, oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Let's imagine that no, in fact, you have here a small, whoops. You have here a small link between the two, that there is a bridge between my two arenas, and in fact, my animals can go from one to the other. Well, if you don't put the bridge here, the program will consider it's impossible for an animal to cross. So it's very important that the arena you create is where one animal can be. Like if 2 arenas are separated, the program will never consider that animals in these 2 arenas are the same animal. I don't know if it makes sense, yeah. And so now do you see I added the bridge? If I click you see that the number of arenas decreased by 1 because now 2 are only 1. And if I click my view button, you see that now this here is a single arena. And the program knows that one individual that was here can appear here. And I will just remove it because in real, we don't want that. Okay. That's it for the arena. Like always, you have the apply to other. you can, like for the background, you can check your backgrounds like this, just like this, it's fast. I can check, did the program work well? Yeah, no, one is not moving, no, perfect. I can do the same for my arenas. So if I apply these to this arena to others, I can just have a look, did it work? Yeah, no. And so it's also working faster. You don't need to go inside each video. Finally, the scale. So scale is quite basic. So here, scale is, so I advise you when you're recording to add this kind of thing in your video, which allow you to tell what a pixel means in real life. So for instance, here, if I zoom in, I can tell that between 10 and, my bad, here. Okay, just do it better than me. This is 10 centimeter. So the program is telling me that between these 2 points, they are 460 pixels. And so I can tell him that 460 pixel is 100 millimeter. So by doing this scale, I allow the program to not work anymore in pixels, but in my unit. Meaning that later the program, instead of telling you your target moved for 5,000 pixels, it will tell you your target moved 10 centimeter, which is much easier for all of us, and which also allow to compare between videos who are not recorded at the same height or at the same zoom. So if I am one video that's been recording higher than the other, well, my pixels doesn't mean the same things when I translate them in centimeter or in millimeter. So if you don't do the scale, you might have problem and your video won't be, except if they are all recording the same way, but if they are not, they won't be comparable. So it's very important to do the scale if you have these kind of videos that are not recorded exactly the same way. If you don't have a real ruler inside a video, you can always use also the background. For instance, I often use the size of my Petri dish or the size of the arena. I know it is. And finally, so let's go for the last step. I will just, so it will be easier to see. Oh, one little, oh no, I already said that, sorry. So I just create one for my fish, here. And I will apply these to other videos. So I select the video I want, done, and so you can see that now my fish are not recording the same way. Perfect. And I will just do the scale rapidly. Perfect. So we are done with the video preparation. So now you are able to prepare your video, and we will go in a much more interesting step, I mean, for me at least, which is the tracking part. So the tracking part works in AnimalTA like in the very, very, very large majority of tracking programs who are not based on artificial intelligence. Even artificial intelligence is often using that, but not all the time. Is there a question or no? Okay, so it's based on segmentation. The concept of segmentation is super basic. The idea that I have an image and I will look for point of interest in my image. So if I have this image, what I want to do is to say what I'm interested here in are those white dots here that are commonly called blob. Don't ask me why. This is the white blobs on dark background. So how is segmentation working? Well, let's dip in that. That's why I had problem. Okay. So here is my video. Now you can see, so I didn't say it, I pressed the prepare tracking button. So when I press my prepare tracking button, I arrive in this new panel in which it shows me where my arenas are on the top of my video. So I can still play my video, pause it, use my arrow. I can also change the speed, which it was already also the case before. So I can see my video accelerated, which can be also quite helpful if you want to look for a precise moment of the video. And then here, this is exactly what the program will do with your video for each image. So for each image, the program will load the original video, then change the color mode, then apply the potential correction, then do the background and so on. So just think that what you see here is a bit like if you were seeing the brain of the program and following each step the program will do. So like this, you can tell him exactly what you want to be done, so it works properly. So to illustrate this a bit better. Here, the first question is color mode. Should I transform my video to grayscale, yes or no? Why do I want to transform to grayscale or not? So let's go back and for a bit more theory. First of all, what is the background? What am I doing here? So background is, as I explained before, we created the background, if you remember, which is my image without my animals. And the concept is very simple, is a subtraction. So I take my video, I remove the background, what remains is my animal. And so this is the concept. That's why we made a background before. Now, why do we want a color or not color background? As you remember before, an image is composed of 3 different grid, red, green, and blue. So before we had these values, which gave us those colors. If I transform them to grayscale, I make a calculus, in fact. And the calculus is the following one. For each square, I calculate 30% of the red, 59% of green, and 11% of blue, sorry. And this, so this equation is quite basic. You do that for each pixel. So if I do, so, well, I want, okay, if you do the first one, it's 0 times 0.3 plus 0.59 times 0 plus 0.11 times 0. Okay, here is a bit dumb, but that's it. And so you will get, in the end, a new value, which is a combination of the 3, which gives you the grayscale. So, for instance, this original image, if I convert it to grayscale, you will get exactly these values. So if I apply this calculus, I will get this. Because the sum of 0.3, 0.59, and 0.11 makes 100, it means that if my 3 values of the 3 colors of the same value, I will get the same gray value. So meaning that the things that are already in gray, they remain exactly the same. But the other will be transformed. So you might be wondering why 0.3 and no 0.25 and not a third for each of them. Well, this is based on our human vision. It's because the way we perceive color is subjective. I mean, subjective is based on our own brain. And so for us, for instance, here, we have the same values of red, green, and blue, but we will see the green much lighter than the other colors. So when we convert them, this calculus take this into account so that the green is lighter than the red or the blue. Okay, that's, sorry, just the basic about how this works. Now the background subtraction. No, sorry, not yet. So here you understand that if I do my background subtraction, if I convert first to grayscale, I lose a bit of time because I need to apply this calculus to my colored image, right? So I'm losing a bit of time. But later, it means that I have only 1 grid instead of 3. So I have 1 grid with all these values that summarize the 3 others. Okay, so I have, in fact, in my grayscaled image, I have 3 times less information. Does it make sense what I'm telling? Yeah. So when you will do all the calculus later, so you lose a bit of time doing this one, but all the rest will be much faster because each time you have 3 times less calculus to do because you're working in only one grid instead of 3. So why do you want to go grayscale or not? Well, using grayscale, because of what I just explained, it's much faster. You will get faster tracking if you use a grayscale image. But in some cases, you might want the color. For instance, in some cases, so I lost my PowerPoint. So for instance, here, let's imagine that, sorry, here I go. Let's imagine that I have a green animal on a red background. Let's say this green and that red. When I convert them to grayscale, they will have very similar values. They are very different colors, but very similar. What we call the value is, let's say, the brightness. So they have very similar values, but very different color. In that case, I want to keep my color image because I need to make the difference between green and red. But in my case here with my fish, it's absolutely not the case because my fish are just darker than my background. There is a strong contrast, so I don't need to play with the color. So if you want to go faster, go grayscale, but only if you have a contrasted animal, if your animal is clearly different from the background and that it's not playing with the color. Then we have, so I will just jump the correction and go to the background. So the background itself is making this subtraction. So the calculus, I'm illustrating here only the calculus for grayscale, but just imagine that for color is exactly the same 3 times. So I have here on the left my background image. Let's imagine this is my background. So, okay, it's a very small image, but it's my background. And here is my video image. And my target is here. So I have 4 dark dots here because my target is moving in that place. When I calculate my background minus my current video, everything that did not change will be completely black. And everything where my target is will be lighter, okay? Because I'm doing like, for instance, if I'm doing 30 minus 30, I will get 0. If I'm doing 227 minus 227, I will get 0. But where my target is, I will get 60 minus 10, so this will give me 50. And so this is the way it works. So this is when you have a target that's darker than your background. And you can tell here to the program whether you want a target that's darker, lighter, or no preference. So in my case, I have darker fish. But what does it mean? If my targets are lighter, what will happen? So in that case, I'm in this situation here. Let's imagine my target is completely white. So I'm following a white fish in a dark environment. Then when my program will do the subtraction, it will get negative values. So if you tell the program that you are working with dark targets, the program will ignore all the negative values because he knows that he's looking for something darker than the background. If you tell him that you are looking for light targets, it will only keep the negative values and it will ignore all the positive ones, meaning that he knows he's looking for something lighter than the background. And finally, if you press no preference, it will just calculate the absolute value of the difference. And so you will be tracking both darker and lighter, everything that's just different from the background. If you know, it's always best to precise. So I'm tracking darker target and background subtraction, whether it's absolute or relative, is not so important. Let's say just that relative takes into account the color of the background itself because there is a kind of threshold. To make it simple, if you have homogeneous background, you just apply absolute. And if you have some variation in the color of your background, you can use a relative. You can also apply brightness correction. The concept is quite simple. The idea that if you have 2 colors and that the light is changing through the video, while the background will calculate this change in light. It will compare the average color of the image, and it will compare it to the reference frame. If there is a difference, it will just correct like this. And this will solve lighting problem. So if, again, this is taking time. So if you have difference in brightness, you apply it. If you don't have, just don't apply it. Flickering is something I would not advise for 99.9% of the people, is really if you have flashing neons lights. So, but it's very not often, and it's like always, if you add stuff that are not necessary, you just lose time. So don't use the flickering option. I should remove it from the program, I think, but there is 1 or 2 people in the world that might need it. So do I need correction of brightness? In my video, I can have a look. No, there is no change, so I won't apply it. Background, then I will have dark target. I have homogeneous background, so I go for absolute difference. And let's continue. So thresholding is basically a very simple concept also. So when I do my difference, I will get this kind of data. And you can see here, for instance, I have different shades of gray. The more different it is from my background, the more white it is, and the closer from my background, the darker. So the threshold is just telling at which level do I consider it is different or not. So if I decrease a lot my threshold, I will accept much more pixels that are with very tiny difference. If I make it very high, I only accept pixels that have a big difference. And as you can see, it ranges from 0 to 255, which is the maximum you can get when you will have a dark, 0 value, completely black background with a completely white target. This will never happen in real life. So in my case, I will have a look at my video. My advice is always move through your video and check that the parameter you set is correct for most of the video. So I can see here, for instance, I always see my fish. They are clearly visible, so that's good. Erosion is removing the border, basically. So if I increase too much my erosion, my fish will simply disappear. But it can be nice to remove little noise. Let's imagine that I have little points that I'm not interested in. I can apply erosion. Like always, if I don't need it, I just don't put it because it's taking time for the computer to process. So in that case, do I need erosion? I don't think so. Because I always see my target. I see there is not so many noise. You can see here, we have sometimes little problems here, which are the fish from the other side that we can see through the wall. But well, they are fish, so I can, they are a bit cut, I can play a bit, make them disappear by increasing the erosion. Let's try it. Dilation is doing exactly the opposite. So as you can see, it's just increasing the size of my blobs. And it allows to fusion. So for instance, sometime, let's imagine that, and I have someone in the group who is working with fish who has stripes, black and white stripe. And so the white stripes on a white background are just not visible by the program because there is no difference between the background and the stripes. So I just see 3 or 2, I don't remember, 2 black lines. So by doing the dilation, you just increase the size of the stripes until they just touch each other. And this way you just recreate a big bowl of fish. And finally, oh no, not finally, not yet, the arena. So this, it's a filter to tell, I will take everything that's bigger than this and smaller than that. So it's a way, for instance, my little fish head that we see here. Here I have a little intruder. That's the fish from the other side that we can see. But it's very small in comparison to my real fish because I just have a little piece of the head. So I can tell this is too small to be my fish. So I will put the limitation. So is it 1 millimeter? 10 millimeter square is already removing it. I have to ensure that if I put 10 millimeter, I'm not losing my fish because I don't know which is their size. So you can try 1 millimeter, they are here. 100, they are not here anymore. So they are smaller than 100 millimeter square. So I have just to calculate and find what is the limit that I put. So my fish are always present, but I remove the noise. So here, for instance, seems perfect. I see that I still have some noise here, for instance, so let's increase it. Let's make it 20. 20 seems fine, it removed my noise, but my fish are still here. Okay, and we can do the same for maximum. So imagine, for instance, someone put the hand in the middle, in front of the camera, so you will have a very big shape that's appearing. Well, like this, you can filter a bit and remove the things that are too big to be the fish. So in my case, I don't need it, so I will just leave it that way. And finally, what's one that's very important, but it's creating a lot of problem because a lot of people have difficulties with this concept. It is complex. I have to admit, it's quite complex concept. The distance threshold. This is how much your individual can move in one frame. So the way it's working, so this is quite visible here. I will put a small one. So my fish here, you see the light blue dots are where the program thinks my fish are. So it's telling me there is one fish here and another one here. And when I move my frame, this blue circle, the dark blue circle, is centered on the last known position of the fish. So if it's centered exactly, if I'm moving one frame, so the middle is here, you see my dark blue circle is centered on this last position. So this means that between here and here, my targets move that way. And the distance threshold will tell me how much my target is able to move between two frames. So the idea that as long as my light blue circle is inside my dark blue circle, my distance threshold is good. If it's lower, it means that the program, for instance, here, if I put something, if I put something like that, the program at this moment will say, the fish was here. It cannot be here because it's not moving that fast. Because my user tell me that the fish cannot move further than this dark blue stuff. So it cannot be the fish, so I will just ignore that stuff. So it's very important that you put something that's big enough so that the fish is always inside. So here, for instance, it's good because my fish, it's not in the center anymore, of course, but it's still inside the blue circle. Yeah, that makes sense. So be very careful when you use that to really move through the video, because for instance, in the case of fish, if I'm just looking at what happened when my fish are here, for instance, they won't move very fast. But you know how fish are, and sometimes they will just get crazy and begin to run super fast everywhere. And if they do that, then your distance threshold might be not sufficient to catch them because they will increase their speed. So my advice is you look a bit in the video. If you really want to take time, you look for the fastest moment they go. If you don't want, you just take a very good margin, and that's it. So I said, okay, let's take a big margin. This, I'm sure my fish are inside. Anyway, I know that I have very good quality of tracking because as we saw before, at this step, there is not much risk of mistake. There is nothing around. The fish is not lost. So I can go for a very big threshold. So the idea that it will also depend on that. The more complicated, the more noisy is your video. If you are not able to get this perfect, only my individual visible case, then you might want to decrease the distance threshold to the minimum you can get. But if you put it too low, then it will lose the animal in the middle of the tracking. And so, sorry, I'm going too fast. So this is done. Like always, so when I validate here, I can apply these parameters to other videos. So you do it only once, and after you copy that and you apply it to all your similar videos. So now my 3 videos of the fish are ready. So I have the begin tracking option. I will press begin tracking, select all, and validate. And the program will immediately begin the tracking. So as you can see, so these are 10 minutes videos. Yes, they are. It's relatively fast, but it will depend a lot on you, on the quality of your video, on how noisy is your experiment. If you put the threshold, the correction of brightness, the erosion, dilation, if you put all the options available, it will be much slower. So it's always the same, try to take on these options you really need. So for now, I will just decrease this. Oh, just realized I might have left the alarm sound, so maybe it will scream it. You will have a very nice music in a few minutes. So don't be scared if you hear trumpets. It's AnimalTA working. And while this is running, I will continue with my explanation and illustrate one thing that I did not present you, but that's a possibility. I explained you that AnimalTA is doing background subtraction, and it's true. So this process of creating an image without the target, it's a fact. But in fact, there is also another possibility. If you don't create the background when it's asking you, well, you know, in this main table, when you create the create background, if you don't do it, well, it will work anyway, but it will use another method. In fact, it will propose you between two other methods. And the first one is what we call adaptive thresholding. And the program will simply look for contrast in your image. So for instance, here, so it's the classical example that everyone is using to illustrate adaptive thresholding. The idea here is that if I use, so thresholding, if you remember, is this moment whether I consider that my difference is enough to be considered white or dark. Well, if I do this on that, of course, all the darker part of my image will be black, and the lighter part will be white. But the adaptive thresholding is looking for contrast. So more or less is doing this, but on very small part of the image. And so this way is able to recreate and to find the contrasting parts. And so in the end, according to the parameter you put, you can end up with this. So the program, if you don't create a background, will allow you to do the adaptive thresholding. So you will just look for a dark or white spot on the image, and you will have the threshold scale will still be available, but it will be changing the parameters of this contrast looking for. So as I told you, it's looking for little pieces. It's looking for contrast inside little pieces of the image. Well, you can change the size of these pieces, basically. And the last one, I don't have anything to show because it's basic, but it's the dynamical background subtraction. So again, if you don't create your background, it will ask you to choose either adaptive or dynamical. Dynamical is doing the automatic background that we saw before, that so it takes random image and creates the background. Well, it will do that, but through the videos. So it will take the first image, then combine it with the second, then combine with the third, fourth, five, and so on. And while you play the video, the background will keep adapting to what is happening. Meaning that, for instance, if you record your video for 24 hours and that you have the sun that's rising, moving through the day and going down in the back, well, you will have big change in light, in shadows, in things like that. But the background will keep adapting all the time. The problem of this is that if your target stops to move, well, it will be integrated in the background because as the background is getting updated all the time. So it's not necessarily a problem because, oh, we finished the tracking. Because with AnimalTA, you have an option to fill in the moments when the individuals are missing. We will discuss that later. Oh, we are very late. And so, sorry, I'm very slow. Yeah, so basically you can also do this too. I don't have time to explain everything in the program, but if you don't put a background, you can use both these options. So think that if you have very long videos with slow changes, it has to be slow. It cannot be brutal change. If you put your hand in the middle, dynamical background won't help you. But something like this that rises, sun is rising or slow changes, you can always use the dynamical background solution. So now that my trackings are done, let's have a look at the results. So I will select my first video and click the view and correct track. And you will see here for each arena, the individual. You can, like always, pause your video, move through it, and you see just, there is not much to say, you just see the results. It also counts the number of missing data. So it tells you where the fish is missing. So for instance, if I click here, it will tell me here at this precise frame, so frame 5918, I don't know where my fish number 0 is. So my fish number 0 is that one. And I can tell him the fish is here. So I will just right click on the position of the fish. I right click and you see that the data are completed. Just to show you why I didn't found it. So this, you see how the fish looks like. It was moving so fast that the camera did not catch it properly. So that's why it was missing at that frame. So you can go frame by frame like this and fix it. So for instance, here, it's my other fish who is missing. So I will tell it's here. Okay, it's fixed. Go to the next missing value. Who is missing? One. So it's him, is here, and so on. So you can correct here this manually, and you have, in fact, a lot of correcting options. I will go through them, but very rapidly. So let's imagine, it's not the case, but let's imagine that from here to here, I lost my fish. So that's a lot of images. I just removed the coordinates. I have button remove the coordinates. So if the tracking is wrongly done, you can just remove them. So if I lose the fish for a lot of frames, I can always do like I was doing. So I click on the position here, 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 here. Each time it's moving one frame. So it's allowing me, so I just have to click and the program automatically switch to the next one. So it's going relatively fast. But still, if it's for 500 image, I really don't need that. So another solution is to use the interpolation. So I can select, I hold shift on my keyboard, go to the end of the problematic moment, I click, so it selects all the problematic parts. And I have the interpolate button. Interpolate means from this frame, so from the first frame of my selection to the last one, the fish was moving in a straight line at constant speed. So if I do that, you see that it creates a straight line between the two missing frames. In my case here, for instance, is not so bad, honestly, because this is okay. Here we are a bit out, but roughly it can be fine. Okay, so that's a first way. Oops. That's a first way of correcting. Now let's imagine, I'm switching to my other fish, that I've lost my fish, but for much, much longer period. Okay, let's imagine that I've lost my fish for all this time. I can definitely not replace that by a straight line. That's too much. But I can redo the tracking only for that part of the video. So I have my little button redo tracking. He will ask me if I want to do the tracking only of this fish or of both. So only the tracking of the selected arena, yes. So it will open me here the new image, and I can change my parameters, because if the tracking failed for a reason, for a few frames, it's for a reason. There was something wrong. So I can then change. For instance, let's say, yeah, my background was not properly done, so I can update my background. I can change the parameters. Yeah, maybe the threshold was too high, too low, too high, whatever. You can change everything, but that will be applied only for this little part of the video. Once you change your parameter, in my case, I don't need to because they were not lost for real. I just removed that myself. You just click the redo tracking and the program will do the tracking for this small part of the video. You can check that the result is proper. So from here to here, perfect. I validate. And so the little part will be placed again inside the big part. And now I don't have missing data anymore. So that's, I think, quite useful because like if you have, let's imagine a problem in the middle of the video, I don't know, yeah, someone turned on the light for a few seconds, minutes. You don't want to redo the 3 hours video. You just can select this problematic part, change the parameter for that part and fix it. There are a lot of others way of making correction. As you can see, I don't have time to go through everything. I will just add a very small one that you can change the color of the target to make it easier to see, and the name, which will facilitate your analysis later, because like this in your table, the program will say, oh, okay, this, if I call it fish 1, for instance, from this moment, everything in my program will refer to it as fish 1. So in my analysis, it will tell me fish 1 moved this distance, made this and this and that. Okay. That's it. Let's continue. So for the correction, again, I don't have time to show everything, but there is a lot of possibilities. And finally, I will finish by the analysis. We have, once again, a lot of options. I won't go through all each of them. But so the first one is the smoothing. I mean, I will jump a few, but I will try to show as much as possible. So the smoothing, the idea is that, okay, if I'm going here, let's add, okay, this is my original trajectory, and this is my smooth trajectory. I will zoom in, it will be there. Original trajectory, smooth trajectory. You see the difference? So it's basically removing the noise from the trajectories. Once again, it depends. If you're working with snail, you won't use the same smooth as if you are working with fish. So you can change the parameter. If I increase, this is way too much. For instance, you see that I almost remove my trajectory. If I put it too low, well, I have the same as my original one. It's not necessary. I mean, some people just don't like smoothing and they don't use it. You can, you're not forced to. And then the analysis themselves, individual trajectories, it's basically putting a speed threshold. So this is showing me the speed of my targets as a function of time. So for instance, I'm following my fish one. You see that now I have his name here. Through time. So if I click here, it shows me this position is this moment in my graph, and my fish speed at this moment was 111. If I play my video, I will see my bar moving here. So this shows me at which moment I am, and it shows you in live the speed that's measured. And like this, I can tell what is moving and what is not. Because there is, for instance, here my fish is not moving, but there is always some residual value. Because the tracking is not 100% perfect, because the camera is always a bit moving, there is water, blah, blah, blah. So I can just put a threshold, and this is my red line here. So I will just increase my red line, put it above what I think to be a stop. And I say, so it means that everything that's below this line is a stop, and everything that's above is a movement. And now here you will see that the image will be updated. If my text appears in red, it means that the animal is considered stopped. If it's green, it means the animal is considered moving. For instance, here is stopped. Let's wait. This is moving a bit, moving, stopped. Okay, let's go. Here is easier. So you see that the border is in green. So with my threshold, it's considered moving. This is a little stop, moving, and stopping again. So you have to put what you think the best threshold is for your animals. It depends on the animal, on the quality of the video, on a lot of things. So it's up to you to choose what you think is the best. But this will allow you to get certain values. So for instance, it will tell you, so well, proportion of time loss is something supplementary that it will be given. But thanks to this, so the program will first calculate the average speed, which is for all the video, how fast is the speed moving. But when you use this threshold, it will calculate the speed when moving, meaning that all this residual speed that's below my threshold will not be considered. And like this, I have the movement speed, and I don't consider the stop as part of the speed. I will also get the proportion of time my individual are spent moving, the distance traveled, and the distance traveled when moving, because like again, there is this residual movement. I don't want them to be included in the distance because they are not moving for real. So, well, it's not important to remember these values. You don't have to write them down. Later, the program will save it for you, but it shows them so you have a rough idea of how it will go. And I can also look for how it looks like for my other fish. So it seems that this fish is a bit more quiet. No, it's just it's just going faster at one point. Okay, but so you can switch between individuals, and like always, you can have the apply to other videos. So let's imagine I have my 3 videos of fish. I can apply this to all of them. So I use the same parameters for everyone, and that's very important at this point, because if you are doing animal behavior, you want to analyze all the behavior in the same way for everyone. You don't want to have one threshold for an individual and another one for another. So it's very important to use this function here once you choose what you think is the best threshold. Exploration shows you how much of the arena your fish explored. So basically the program is drawing around the trajectory, the program is drawing a circle and considering that everything that's inside this circle is explored and everything that's outside is not explored. So the size of the circle can be increased or decreased as you please. So for instance, let's say I want to consider that this is how much my fish explore. And the program will so draw here this red line, and it will calculate how much pixels in this image are in red divided by the total number of pixels. And this gives me 70% of the arena is explored by this fish. You can also use this option to create a heat map. So I will show you rapidly. So I click my heat map button, and this is the heat map of the fish position. So as you can see, my fish spend much more time in the left than in the right. After you can personalize it, well, you have a lot of options here, and you can save your heat map. It can be a nice graph. That's it. Okay, let's continue. Exploration. Inter-individual distance is if you have more than one individual in the same arena. You will also have a lot of data related to that. That's how much time they spend together, how far they were from each other, and how much contact occurrences occur. So to know if two individuals are together, you will need to put a threshold. It's exactly the same as before, same concept. And I say, how far do I consider that two individuals has to be together? The idea that if another fish is inside this red circle, the program will consider they are together. So you can change the size of this. Spatial repartition is allowing to see how the fish explore the environment and interact with it. You have, again, a lot of options. I won't have time to speak about all of them, but I will show you only one. So here, in fact, this test is a test of social choice. The fish has the choice between his family on the left and an unknown family on the right. And so I want to know how much time it spent in this arena or in this arena. So I will just draw a 5 centimeter rectangle here. So this is non-kin part. And I will do the same in the opposite part. And this is my kin section. I will also say I'm interested in what happened at 50 millimeter round. And now from this, it will tell me that the fish in this non-kin part spent 28% of the time, while in the skin part, it spent 70% of the time. That on average, it was at 9 centimeter. Here in average was at 21 centimeter. Latency, so the first one, so he entered first in the non-kin part, and then in the kin part, because the latency is bigger in the kin than in the non-kin. Once again, you don't have to remember that. It just show you what kind of data you will get with these values, but you don't need to do it that far. And finally, the last one, sorry, the last one is the sequence option. So you can subcut, let's say, your video into little parts. For instance, in this test, I'm not interested really in the 10 minutes. I want to know what happened in the first 5 minutes. So I will say from 0 to 300, and then I will call it first part, and then I will create something else that will be called second part. And my second part is the opposite. I want it to begin at 5 minutes and finish at the end of the video. And this way, the program will analyze separately both sequence. So I will get values for my first 5 minutes and for my last 5 minutes. But I still can also keep a general sequence that do everything. And like this, I will get one line for everything, one line for first minute, one line for last 5 minutes. There is a lot of possibilities here. You can also change that according to the exploration. So what happened between the 0 and 50% of the area explored, what happened before it reached any of the two border section. Well, there is, unfortunately, I should have said more than 2 hours, but I'm afraid it would be very boring. So, but you have this possibility of creating sequence. Always in both spatial and sequence section, you don't have the apply to other. Why that? It is because it's inside them. So for instance, here in the spatial, so I created these two red parts, my kin and non-kin. If I go to the other arena, they are not here. So what I do is that I apply it to other video from here, expand to other arenas. And now I can say, I want to apply, in my case, boss, I want to apply to which videos, all my fish videos. So I select all, it shows me where it will be applied, validate. And now if I switch, it will have done the same for all of them. So, but because it's a bit more case by case, because you can apply only half of the elements, for instance, you don't need to apply all of them. You don't, so it's, as it's a bit more detailed, you have to go inside the option to be able to apply. And it's the same for sequence. You are not forced to apply the same sequence to all individuals, so you can do case by case this way. And finally, once you are ready, when you prepared all your analyses, you have a button that's called Run Analysis. Select your targets, your videos, validate, and I'm finished. I will just show you where the results arrive. So if you remember, I had a project folder at the very beginning who was empty. Now it's not empty anymore. First, it contained the coordinates of my targets. So the row coordinates and the corrected coordinates. And it also contains the results data. Everything that I told you and much more is present here. So for instance, this is the individual. So I have, you see my little fish one is here. Fish one is here. He has these three sequences, the first part, the second part, and the general sequence. The other fish, I did not apply to them, so they only have their normal sequence. And I can see that, for instance, my fish, what value can we get that are interesting? I don't know. The exploration, so in the first 5 minutes, it explored 70% of the environment. But in the last 10 minutes, it only explored 70%. While overall, it explored 70%. So, well, you have all the data. You have the speed, whether it was, okay, proportion. It spent most of the time moving, 80% of the time moving during the first 5 minutes, 70 during the last 5 minutes, 75 on average. So, well, you have all these data that are stored here, and a little bit everywhere in this result, you will get, for instance, all our spatial data. So, for instance, how much time does our fish spend in the kin section or in the non-kin section? Along that, you will get the behavior inside the section. So, for instance, inside the non-kin rectangle, the fish was moving 75% of the time during the 5 first minutes. So it's getting a bit crazy because you have so many possibilities. I cannot show everything because we just made 2 red rectangles, but you can do ellipses, you can do segments, you can do borders, you can do a lot of things. I cannot explain everything, so I will just stop here for my explanation. And I think I have still 15 minutes. So because thank you very much to the two of you who sent me some videos to show as example that were particularly, not especially one, difficult videos. So I would like to show you how it goes with these videos. I will open it here. So I won't go into all the details. So the first video is a crustacean in the sea. So here is how the video look like. The original video is, I just cropped it to make it easier. But so as you can see, we have a lot of shaking, a lot of tremors, and a lot of fish that are moving around. So the crustacean we are interested here is here. It's this small animal that's moving here. So can AnimalTA solve this problem? Honestly, no. I won't lie to you. It's way too complicated for AnimalTA such a video. But okay. So if my advice for you in that case is, if you have a lot of videos, if you have 200 videos, you can forget about AnimalTA. My advice is go for artificial intelligence, because I can already tell you that all the ones who are not using artificial intelligence won't be able to solve that. If you have like 10 videos or 20, up to you, it might worth it to make what I called, I told you before, semi-automatic tracking, which is, so you try to find the best parameters. So I will show you, I can share with you later the parameters I put exactly, but basically I put these parameters, which it's not this one. Yes, that's it. Okay, so this is something I didn't have time to present. Yeah, if you have to tell how many targets you have in each arena. But in your case, in the case of this crustacean, the number of targets is not constant because sometimes it can hide. So you can use the option variable number of targets, meaning that you don't know how much target there is. And in yellow here, you draw where the targets can enter and leave. So this video is also especially difficult because there is not like a border and the crustacean can enter from the border or the top. It can enter from everywhere because he's hiding under the rocks. So in our case, we will use these options. And just to show you, so for instance, here it finds it and there is no noise around. So for the first image, it's quite easy. And after rapidly, you see that there is the fish that are, the crustacean is almost never lost itself. But there is so many noise with the fish that it will interact with the tracking. It has to. There is, I mean, there is no other way, I think, to not have interaction. But, well, the best I got with those parameters is this tracking. So this, I'm just showing you the tracking with the parameters I set. So as you can see, there is a lot of noise, but still your animal is tracked. There is just a lot of noise around. So what I propose in that case is to clean it. So I will just put a very easy color to my individual, and I will call it my, I don't know, what animal is that exactly? I don't know, my cursed. Let's be very general. And so what I will do that I will try to just have good tracking of him, and I forgot about everything else. So here is fine. Here I have a little problem, okay, but it's fine. Here is fine, okay. So this first was okay. Then here it comes back. As you see, as it left and comes back, the program thinks it's something new. So I will tell him, no, it's the same tracking. So it's the shortcut is written here. You cannot see it because it's too small, but it's Control, Shift, and click. So if I do Control, Shift, click, it will tell me, careful, you're about to fusion these two. Are you sure? Yes, no. So in my case, I will just ensure. No, that's good. That's good. So I will tell, yes, I'm sure. So now you see that it fusioned the two trajectories. So he knows it's the same. I continue, no problem, no problem. Okay, crustacean is back. Okay, so here is a fish, but here it is. So let's say, no, it's here. I continue, and so on. And I think it's almost done. You can do it better, obviously. Where is it? Maybe this is a bit too messy. Okay, here it is. Let's be crazy. Let's say that it was him here. Okay, so now I kept all the part of the tracking I know I'm interested in. So what I can do is I can just delete all the rest. So I have the delete individual button and I will remove everyone else. And this is how I end up with So it's not perfect. It won't be perfect, but it might worth it to manual correct these little mistakes. I guess once you're a bit used to the program, it can be done really relatively fast. So it's up to you to determine. If you have 2,000 videos, you can forget about it. And I advise go for AI. But if you have just a few, it might worth it to do this way and correct it manually. Okay, here it is. So the fish is here for everyone to see. It's a beautiful fish. Well, the crustacean was beautiful too. But it's less common to say it's beautiful crustacean. So here is my fish. And as you can see, we have exactly this problem that the fish white is very similar to my background white. So the program just doesn't see it. And that's why I use a lot of dilation. And like this, the fish will just there will be a fusion of the black lines. And this way, the program will always consider it as a single individual. We have also one supplementary difficulty here, which is the fact that it's a 3D arena. So when the fish is going back in the back, it's getting very small. So, well, it's not a big problem, but it's important that you take that into account when you calibrate the area, that if you put something too big, it will be like small fish will disappear because it's not inside the range. And so the distance threshold, for instance, in my case, I did something like that, which allow also for if the fish is lost for 1 or 2 frames, it won't be a problem. And yeah, that's it. So it's another video that I didn't have time to show you. It's quite cool. Also, it's social spiders and things. Okay, let's imagine that my program called it blue, and it's blue. And this one, I'm a bit stupid, but okay. My program called it red, and it's red. Okay, so but imagine that this one for real is red, and this one for real is blue. Then you go, it's not the best video to show that, but you go to the beginning of the video. Okay, in your case, you will have all your targets inside that begin from the beginning of the video, so you won't have this problem, but okay. And you just hold shift and click on the other one, and the identities will be swapped from the moment you click. So of course, in my case here, it's a bit messy because they don't appear in the same time. But in your case, if they are in the video from the very beginning, when you do that, you just swap everything. So blue will be green, sorry, blue will be red and red will be blue. So you don't need to rewrite everything. You don't need to reassign the colors, but you just need to say, this is that, and that is that. Indeed, there is video tutorials and there is written guidelines. So I know guidelines are boring. It's annoying to read them, but so this one I made a special effort to explain the things. So it's not only technical. It's not press here to do that. It will explain, for instance, if you're not sure about what background means, it will explain you what the background is. So even if you don't read all of them, but you can just go to the section you don't understand, and the program, I mean, the guideline explains what you are doing, like what happened if I change this value. I mean, it's supposed to be a bit didactical, a bit pedagogical. It's not only a user manual basic. And it's a very, very small detail, but if you in the future are using the program, please think that it's completely free. It's open source. So if some of you are coding and wants to bring their stone to the building, you can add anything. And if you have question, if you have suggestion to improve the program, I'm trying to do 1 update per month. So most of the updates are very small updates that are fixing bugs or proposing little changes, but once per year I do a big update with strong changes. So the last one was the possibility to have variable number of target, for instance. But so if you have any suggestions, please do not hesitate to write me, because most of the modifications I made are coming from my users who are telling me even silly things, but they are things that are saving your life. For instance, this ability to zoom in a square you draw on that I've been using. This is something quite new because people just say it's so boring to click, 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 click each time to zoom. So but this kind of optimization are also what makes the program useful for everyone. So if you have this kind of suggestion, even, yeah, another very basic one that people suggested, can we have a dark version? Because the original is light, and I have people spending hours and they said my eyes are dying. Can you propose dark version? So it's okay, this kind of small stuff, please do not hesitate to tell me. I would be very happy to add them. And if you publish something that is based on AnimalTA, please do not forget about citing it. I know it's just a tool, but as it's free, there is also a lot of work, as you can imagine, in the background. So for me, the only way, in fact, of this work to be recognized is to get citation. So if you use it, please just do not forget to add the citations. Not a pro. I mean, it's not expensive usually for people. So that's it.